Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Conversations with D. I have my special guest, Dr. Teresa Merritt-Watson. She's an educator, an author, an entrepreneur, and she just recently released an updated edition to the children's book, Black Tech Leaders in Technology, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And it is available on Hove Publishing. And thank you so much to Dr. Angelo Ellerby and Mr. Kevin Goins at Double Exposure Media Relations, who has put this together. And I will tell you where you can find her at after we finish. But for now, we are celebrating Dr. Teresa Merritt-Watson and all of the amazing things that she's done and what brought us to this amazing book. And as I was telling her before we started, I thanked her, and as I appreciated as somebody who started off as a student in STEM. And for those who may not be aware of what STEM stands for, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And if you're still not familiar with that, the movie Hidden Figures, who was about the late Katherine Johnson, who was a mathematician, she worked for NASA. She was in charge of making sure, her and the other three wonderful women, Black women, they were in charge of making sure that the NASA astronauts got back and got to and from and the astronaut, the programming. So it takes a lot. I don't know, a lot of people know that, but there's calculations, and with one wrong move, something could mess up the whole operation. So that's why it's very important that we had the late great Katherine Johnson and those three amazing Black women, and we were able to hear that story in Hidden Figures. And people like Dr. Macy Jemison, the first female Black astronaut for NASA. That's very important. People like Dr. Lonnie Johnson, who created the inventor of super soakers. So that gun that we all wanted as children that sprayed the water, that was by a Black individual, Dr. Lonnie Johnson. And a lot of people don't know that, but you know that now, and you can tell people that. So we're going to get into the story behind it, and Dr. Merritt-Watson is going to tell us that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to discussing it.
So I'm going to give you the floor to do so.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I've created Black Tech. Black Tech is my first children book, and it's designed to actually showcase the great things that African Americans have done in the development of this country. And many, and in fact, most of the inventors have had a profound impact on the world. Like, for example, Gladys West creating the GPS system. You can go in any part of the country and you see someone utilizing the GPS system. And Alexandra Miles, which created an automatic elevator door opener. And younger people don't really understand that you used to have a person in there to open and close the door, go up and down to the various floors when you call the elevator. Now you don't need that because of Alexandra Miles. So any place you go in the world that has an elevator, and most of them do, countries do, it's using Alexandra Miles creation. And so when you're using Zoom, you're using Marion Crope's creation. And so these are what I'm trying to do, is to reinstill the fact that we have had and continue to have a profound impact on the development of this country. But most people that I've worked with do not know. They're surprised that we have had these instruments and have had this kind of impact. And in my next book, I even share, and I don't want to give it away, but I even share the stability of material, where the material, they wanted things to build, but they couldn't stabilize aluminum. They couldn't stabilize it, but it was stabilized by a Black man. And so you have these 100-floor buildings because of things that we have created. And then I wanted to showcase, the book is written in 1st to 3rd grade, but anybody to pick the books up will learn something. Now, I did a presentation to a group of people, and I'm gonna say they're between 50 and 85, I think. But no one knew anyone, not one person out of that group of people. And I guess there should have been at least 70 people in there, and no one knew anyone in the book. The one guest, the one person came close to knowing somebody, but it was a totally different thing. The person that what she talked about, it was a Black inventor, but it wasn't the right one that we have. And my point there is that adults have to learn these things because they have to be able to convey it. Now, when you got a child that is engaged in what we have done, what our ancestors have left for us, what people are doing right now, they can go to their school with a sense of pride. You can go with your creativity. You can go to school looking for becoming a critical thinker. You can go to school thinking that I can do anything, regardless of where my economic or my educational level of my parents or the environment that I'm living in. They will see hope. This is what I'm hoping the book would do. Now, if you decide you don't want to go to college, which everybody don't need to go. I've listed the HBCUs of the people that's in the book. And I also listed people that did not go to college. Alexandria Miles, Lewis Latimer, or either Garrett Morgan. Either one of those guys, Frederick Jones, they are self-made engineers. They're self-made electrical engineer or mechanical engineering. And so what happens is that they saw a reason to fix something, and that's what they did. And so I wanted to be able to show that. I want to be able to show the people that went to an HBCU. And so I have that listed in here because there was a point in time, I haven't heard much about it or read much about it lately, that people wanted to get rid of the HBCUs, but it has a profound impact on our children and on our community. So my latest thing is to try to get corporations to buy the book in volume and give it to a student in the community so we can jumpstart and be responsible for our own education. So those are some of the reasons that I've written the book. And, you take Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan created the traffic light, but Garrett Morgan also created the gas mask. Now, in the story, which you can actually find the story online, and one of the stories that Garrett Morgan has done, that they've done, is to show that Garrett Morgan gas mask. There was a coal mine in West Virginia, I think it was, and they didn't want to use it, but they used his gas mask, saved some people, but he never got credit. They never mentioned the fact that it was his gas mask, his design, and all that. We have some of our colleges scoring in the top on the LSAT, not the LSAT, and taking the bar. But we don't know the great things that we're doing. And so this way we can start actively knowing what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so this is my goal, is that the children will see, the parents will see how important it is. And so if I tell you, if we had not position ourselves to absorb anything and information that people have, more people would have challenged the discovery of Christopher Columbus. We would have challenged the size of the maps that involves African Americans or darker skinned people. Like right now, if you pull up your map, it would show Africa in a small frame, when in fact 7-8 countries can sit inside of Africa. And we would not have bought into the fact that Africa was a savage place. Now you can go, I saw this on TV, so anybody that's watching from Tennessee, don't take offense to it, please. But I just saw it as a documentary. And because these people were living in Tennessee and they were having sewer backup, they had no plumbing, and no inside toilet. Now, how savage can you get? And you want to talk about Africa, And so I think that we haven't embraced us the way we should, and then we allow people to say, well, racism doesn't exist because we have you have the same opportunity as everyone else. Well, so I'm not going to get too far off center there. And then in the back of the book this time with the addition, what we did is we put in engaging things in the book so that the kids can color, they can ask questions, complete puzzles and things like that. So they can, because they got to answer, who made the GPS? What does the GPS stands for? Either it's just a puzzle, and they're simple because they're from first to third grade. And but I've found that I've done book reading for schools, and the fourth and fifth graders are just in love with them. So that is pretty much what I've done. What I do want to say is that the encouragement of an eagle, is one thing that I think people need to be able to recognize. And one of the things that I do in here is I think about the greatness of an eagle, and it just seemed like a peaceful bird. But it utilizes strategy. It utilizes critical thinking. It utilizes problem solving, even down to its lifespan and how it lives its life. It's a problem solving. They have to make decisions. But the eagle characteristics are the same traits we need for critical thinking. That is important. And if you take this is a older people joke that kids can't count money these days, so if you're at the cash register and the computer go out, she can't count you the money back. If it's $1.75 and you give her a quarter, she doesn't know what to do from that point on. They critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. That's the real thrust of an eagle. That is the real thrust of Black people in general. But if you start peeling away at them and taking those elements away, then you get some people just going through the motion of going to school. And this is and it's also important that we also know that we don't know a lot about ourselves except for the negative things, And so when you get a kid to go through school, where we pay taxpayer dollars to put people through school, and then they end up in prison. We have a high population of people in prison because let me rephrase that, but it should concern people that we have 50% of our people that are in prison have not finished high school. I'm talking about African Americans, and a higher number than that of the people that are incarcerated was in special ed. And then another high number is the people that did not finish with a high GPA. Because there's several ways to graduate from high school now, but these things where our kids are not being educated, and so I'm not just working to promote a book. I am working to redirect, change the trajectory. And for this, I look at I work with another group. It's called 3 Ps: passion, pursuit, and purpose. Because every child has a passion. But if you don't nurture the passion, then they don't nurture it. They don't know how to generally. You have to have the help of somebody that's connected to you. And our kids are not getting that nurturing of their passion. See, I tell this story of a young man. He runs a science lab. I don't know whether it's chemistry or biology, but it's a science lab at one of the universities. And when his child is in school, they're talking about, oh, John, how many miles is it to the moon? Or how many, he asked him a whole bunch of mathematical things that's going on with stars and science. And I'm sure they feel like that his dad has conveyed some things to him. However, that same guy, that same kid, not the same kid, a very similar kid, where the father's going to work every day. He's working, let's say he's working in the kitchen, he's coming home, working on his car. What he has done is his son works with him and he's learning the same mathematical skills, but people don't see that because of the environment. We need to let people know it doesn't matter where you come from. Mathematical skills are the same. Art skills, I don't know much about art, but they're very similar. And so we have to encourage people to help our kids nurture their passion. And that's one of the things that I think that this book help a person to look at. Oh, he did that. Oh, we needed somebody to open the elevator. And now Alexander Miles have done that. Mm-hmm. And every single author in the book is their invention is utilized all over the world. I could not think of one that's just rooted here in the United States. And it's time. This is a great time for us to move our things forward. We got to, you just got to take ownership of it.
And that's amazing. Like everything you said, it definitely makes sense because I know growing up in Flint, Michigan, in the inner city, you definitely see a lot of those things. I can say that when I was a student, when I started off, I had a teacher that she didn't know how to deal with me. Instead of her being positive, she did this to other students as well that were brown. And she held us back and basically made us out to be a problem. So I repeated the second grade. And I went to summer school and the teachers were like, why are you here? You are very intelligent. And so I got to the third grade, even though I had to repeat the second grade, they tried to fix it. But around those times, my mom, she was a baby boomer and my grandmother was the generation before that, they tried to advocate as much as they could possibly do. But they knew that something was wrong with that. And, I give grace to both of them because they didn't know how to do, a lot of those things and be the forerunner of that. So there were other students that parents had dealt with the same thing, but it was a consistent thing. So I was a teacher. She was a white teacher. And she basically, because we were, we laughed, we did things differently. She made us out to be problems. And so I knew that obviously I wasn't a problem with it, but it took other teachers pouring into me and understanding how to deal with me. And thank God for those teachers. They didn't just do away with me or just say, oh, okay, whatever with her. So thank God for those teachers. And they basically allowed me to be myself and also helped me. And I graduated at the top of all my classes, elementary, middle school, and high school, undergrad and grad school. So thank you for that, because that's the stigma that they put on kids, that if they have a behavioral problem or if they laugh or ADHD, they are a problem, and they cast them as these things. So when they get into the society, they feel some kind of way. And so thank God for my late grandmother for instilling upon me that I am great and I'm not a problem, and that she never allowed me to have that stigma. And so I grew up to be exceptional, as some people would say. And when I read about how, came across how you went about the book, and specifically talking about ACT scores and talking about, there are individual students who reported a 19.5 out of 36. That is sad. And that's because they don't know that these inventors and these individuals exist. A lot of these individuals don't know that. So what you were putting out there is exactly correct. I mean, literally, I remember being a student in high school taking the ACT, and I scored a 16, and I had exceptional grades, right? But we know that standardized testing is not something that Blacks do well in. We know that it's very disadvantaged, disproportionate, And although we do not do well in them, does not mean that we're not intelligent. We're definitely intelligent. We just need people to pour into us and to look at the strengths that we do have and take that and help us get rid of these weaknesses and transform them into strengths so that we can do well and so we can excel in the things that we need to excel in. And I wish I would have known what I knew now, because I took the SATs and I did extremely well on that. So thank God for that. But but yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that, because it is true that we as Blacks, we do not do well in standardized testing, and systematically it's disproportionate. And whether it's the LSATs, whether it is the MCAT, we have to have those programs that help us to garner those skills to be able to tackle these hard assessments, to get into these programs that we want to get into. And we can get into them, but we just need somebody to, nurture us and help us a little bit more. But we can do it. It's not that we can't. The whole problem is when people will say, oh, well, it's okay that you don't know how to do that math problem. No, don't say that to a student, because then they'll accept that. What you want to say is, you can do this. We're going to work at this. You know what? I seen how you shot that basketball. The same energy, the same effort you put into that, we're going to use that to get through this math equation. But seldomly, we see that is not the case with some educators. And that's why there's a difference between educators and teachers. And you know that as well as I know that, there is, because you have individuals who want to help the child and see past those weaknesses and say, hey, I'm going to help you. You are going to do this. And no need to have take the can out of it. Because anytime you have a can't on something, somebody's not going to want to do it. Like, I know for me, I didn't like math like that, but I can do it. I got an A in statistics. I did extremely well. Now it's very tedious. However, I can do it though. And I can solve those calculations. It's just, I have to, change my mindset. And that's the thing. We have to make sure that students have a positive mindset and a structure going forward to know and understand that it can be challenging, but challenging does not mean that you cannot accomplish it or tackle it. Challenging just means that you're going to put a little bit more into it. But guess what? Perfect practice makes practice.
Well, the thing about testing, well, anytime you take a look at the SAT or ACT, either one of those tests, whether it's the LSAT or the GMAT, there's some key elements on there that's not familiar. And the one that have done the best explaining to me that I've read is it used to be a large population of people coming from the island going to England. And so they would use terminology. I forgot their term, but they, when you're in the islands, they're not saying spigot. They may call it a faucet. So when you see the word and whatever the terminology they use, that's relating to something entirely different. That's the same way that our tests are our SAT. So what they try to do is sort of center it in a way that is familiar to everybody, what we're accustomed to in speaking. So it's not the test itself, it's how is administered, not administered, it's how it's written. Is written for the majority and not the minority. Well, it's written for the larger population. And when you talk about what we don't talk about much is the home environment. And so there's the stresses that come from the things that we have to do. Things are more expensive. They won't even raise the minimum wage. Minimum wage, it really is $7.25, I think it is. And there's not one person on the United States planet that can pay rent on $7.25. So because $7.25, well, $7, I'm going to call the other one, and you work 40 hours, you make $280 a week, and you do that 4 times, you've gotten your rent paid and nothing else. Even if you stand in a 1-bedroom apartment. And so we have some developed over time is some spending habits that have been detrimental to our community. and we've developed over time not working as a unit. When you see, you could have a whole street, and if someone has extra potatoes, then somebody on that street got potatoes, because you had more than what you needed, and things like that. Those things, regardless of your economic position, where you don't have to share food, it is absolutely a necessary thing that we need to get back to. That keeps our community strong, regardless of that. And then we allowed people to come into our community, make money off of us, and then take the money back to their community. And so those are the same people that we enriched that voted for Donald Trump. I'm not, I know it's not political, but
you can say like, this is your platform. Like, so on my platform, you are allowed, not to cut you off, you are allowed to speak freely how you feel. As long as you ain't discriminating against nobody, you speaking the truth. So, it is very sad what has happened. It is.
But we support these people, religiously, and going to the store. I going to the store next door. My girlfriend lives in West Philly, so I have this love for banana taffy. My
mom loves that too.
And so that's the only place where I've been that just sold banana taffy, and you could get them out of there. And I would walk over there, and I just be wondering and looking, why is he in this community? Why isn't someone in this community running this store? And things like that. And then we have. So I was in. I was in West Philly, and so I asked one. It was at an event, at a conference, and so I said to her, I said, well, I have the desire, because I'm in part of town that's majority Black. I really want some fish and coleslaw. I don't mess with the beans. And she said, oh, I know this perfect place. In my mind, I just assumed it was a Black-owned restaurant. Now this restaurant is in the Black community. It wasn't clean. We have positioned ourselves where stores will, if it's in our community, they don't have to clean them. We have a dollar store. At a dollar store. It hasn't been clean since. And so the message that we are sending is not good for us.
No.
We're sending that you don't have to do anything for us to patronize you. And that's not a good message.
No,
we have to start demanding things. We have to take back our community. We have to
demand respect.
Yeah. But you gotta, I don't have any problem with any race.
No.
But you in our community taking our money back to your community, making your community rich, and our community get poor, and our people care. Because, and then when we go to you and say, well, you support this program, this reading program, no, you don't contribute to us.
Yep.
But we buy Chinese food, we buy Mexican food, we buy, they set the restaurant up in our community.
Yep.
But I do say that cleanliness is a good thing. I think our businesses need to start looking at how we present ourselves.
Yep.
But that money thing, until we get a handle on that and a handle on our children, what we allow them to see and what we allow them to be exposed to, they think this is somebody operating in your community, taking your money. They think that's a natural process. Why? Because that's what's not all the time.
Exactly. Like where I come from, there were stores in Flint, Michigan that were owned by Black individuals. They have since passed on, and thank you for, them putting them in the community and being part of that. But I know that right now, a lot of individuals are buying back the block. What they're doing, there are lots of Black graduates from Morehouse. They invested into communities in Atlanta. They're buying condos, they're buying different areas, and they're all Black owned, and that's beautiful. And I know I want to be a part of that. Like, I want to buy up some blocks. Like right now, I'm seeing all these buildings being built in my community of Northeast DC. And I'm like, I wish I had money to invest in that. I wish I was a part of that. And I will one day, because I've seen it happen, because I've seen people like me that look like me be part of that. So I am hopeful. And like I told my mom, I will invest in some stuff. It's going to be very successful and it's going to go well, because I know that I will have people that back me. And I know that seeing different restaurants, Black owned businesses, and seeing the whole soul food aspect of it, that does exist. But when they want to sell them to individuals, that takes away from the essence, and it takes away from the brand and the taste. And we as people, like for an example, there was a company called Miel. It was a Black owned company where she sold it to Johnson. And the product, the quality of it changed, and people start saying that they start losing their hair. I can say that before she sold it, I have the product sitting in front of me, and that was before the Johnson & Johnson thing, right? And they worked. I can't speak for the stuff now, but I can say that she's a nurse. She started as a nurse or whatever, a Black nurse. And I can say that we as people, there are other individuals, Black inventors, that they are not going to sell their product to that person. They're not going to, to
Revlon or one of those places.
Yeah, they're not going to do it, because they know once they do it, it's going to change. Even though they say that they'll remain creative director, we as people have to understand that, guess what? This is a monopoly. We are in a economic system of capitalism, and inflation is real. That was one of the number one things that, certain individuals didn't touch on too much, but it's real. The fact that eggs are costing $5 to $6, $7, $8, $9, $10, that's ridiculous. The
and
fact
especially
that,
since the chicken don't have chicken are laying eggs the same way they used to.
That's the stuff that definitely impacts us and affects us, because you have people that don't make six figures like that or whatnot, or they barely make enough, right? And so we have to start looking at those things, and we have to start putting people in places to help one another, and understanding that, guess what? When we vote and when we put towards something, we have to start taking the eye out of everything and putting all into it, meaning this is going to serve the better good of everybody, not just me. I can be against something and still say, you know what, I'm against it, but I want everybody else to, who does, are for it, to benefit as well, right? Just because I don't agree with it does not mean that I am the end all, the end to be all of that. And I have to, take myself out of that. And so when I vote, like, I don't smoke marijuana, but guess what? I voted for those people to have the medicinal rights, because at the end of the day, I vote with the mindset of this. If something was to happen to me, if I was to lose my job, there would be unemployment for myself and other people. I vote with the mindset of the then, what can happen after in the future. I'm not thinking about now. I'm thinking about what can happen in the future or whatnot. So, So about the future or whatnot. I'm not thinking about, now. Yes, now is important, but I think as a community, we kind of fall off into that gateway of, I need to think about now. Now is important. Now is important, but I'm looking at the future. I'm thinking about, developing, building things up, putting money back into the community. Like, COVID showed us a lot of things. COVID showed me that, guess what? I want to have several streams of income. I want to have passive income, to where, guess what? As I'm doing this podcast, I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid from something else. Something is paying something. It's serving its purpose. And I want to be successful. I want to be able to bless people and be a blessing to others, and be able to have something for generational wealth and to build, just like individuals of the majority, they have done that. Why we can't do that as Black people? Some of us are doing that. And thank you so much to those individuals. We're not speaking to people who are doing what, being social change agents or whatnot for positivity. We're speaking towards the ones that do need to get on this train and go forward with the momentum of cultivating these practices, so that we have something in the future to look at.
Well, I will say that you said quite a few things, but one of the things when we're looking at this transition that we need to make in our community is small stones. And I know when I went to school, the one thing that we did not have at our school is behavior issues. Sometimes you see people trying to be friends with their children. I think you should like their children, but you have an obligation to be a parent. And I
Amen.
tell people, and I really enjoy this when I do a parenting class. You have to decide that you're going to be a parent for at least, I don't know, 16 years. By that time, the kids are self-sustaining, but they still need your guidance. They're going to need your guidance the rest of their life. But if you don't lay the foundation, the kid's going to always be in your lap. And that's something we need to start taking, because what happens when our kids go to school and they're acting out because you curse at them and you're calling them all name, and then they're not calling you back, but they go to school and they think it's okay to talk to a teacher like that. And so then you have the system label your kids, and then your kids in behavior classes, and then you just set a record. There's some things that we too need to withdraw from, that used not to be a major problem in our community. And so there's so much strength in the Black community.
Yes, it is.
And so that is, the Black community is my focus. The other groups, people take care of them. They're going to make sure they take care of them.
Exactly.
And so when it comes to Black people, you have a whole pie, and you get a pinch of the pie, and the people tell you how great this person is doing, or how great that person is doing. And then when you look around them, you got 200 people, you got you have 225 people, 5 people make it through, and then everybody give a kudos to the system. And so there's a lot to be done, and nobody really birth a child and say, oh, I want my child to sell drugs. I want my child to do this. But parents become overwhelmed with the situation that they're in. But so if you don't have people to help you through that process, it even gets harder, because time gets harder. Because, believe it or not, the older your kids get, the more they need, the more they need you. So, this transition is very challenging.
Yes. And you hit that right on the nail. You hit that right on the nail.
And this is why the book is just, you can use it as a tabletop. And once you open it, everybody that open it can learn a fact. And I'm hoping with the books that I'm creating, what I'm hoping to do is to have some kind of profound impact on the students, on the kids, when they see it, they say, oh, this need to be fixed. I don't like that I have to, when I walk in the room and I can look at my computer and say, tell it to come on. And the last thing I want to leave you with, to make sure that the kids master this, other than putting an activity piece in the back of the book, is that when I go and I do a parent, not a parent training, I'll do it sometimes at a parent training, but when I go to a school and read to this school, I encourage the student to start naming the object, whatever person invented the object. And so if you get in your car and you says, I was messing with my GPS today, and I call it Gladys,
after the inventor.
And it says, are you going to the elevator? I'm going to see Alexander's Miles. So what? I said, yes, I am. So that they could start remembering and knowing, and just strengthening their mind about these great things that these people have done. That's what I want. And my book can actually be purchased off Amazon. It's on Amazon, hard copy, soft copy. And it's a great Christmas stocking stuffer for people. It is a great book for people, for kids. And this is for the people. I don't know, we're radio, but this is what it looks like.
That's awesome.
And so when you pick it up, you have that. I think that And I really would, if any corporate people are listening, I really would like for the corporate people to contact us at
Yes.
synergynetworkllc.com and purchase books to give away to children.
Yes. Please do that. Please invest in good things for these kids. And you hit a lot of amazing things. So I have it up right now for everybody. I'm going to zoom in. So y'all are familiar with Amazon because y'all buy everything else on Amazon. So everybody at home, y'all know y'all going to do stuff on Black Friday. So on Black Friday, what I need y'all to do, you need to make this number one again. It says bestseller. So we need to make this number one again. And look, you have the hardcover, the paperback, and you have, let's see. So you have the paperback is the the hardcover right there. Sorry. So also coming soon for those people who like to look at things on Kindle and on iPad, that will be coming soon. Because you don't want to carry a book. That's okay. You can buy it off of there. So stay tuned. And that's on hubpublishing.com. That's a Black-owned business too. I want to say, yeah, it's a Black. So mind you, make sure that on Black Friday, what we are doing, we are pouring into Black businesses. That's what we need to do. So if you need a list of those who you need to pour into, please hit myself up and some other people. We will tell you so that you are doing that. We want to make our people, rich. We want to help them and lead to their success. So let's make sure we do that. But in the Black community in general, we need to understand that it takes a village to raise a child. We need to understand that, guess what? It took that person that when you were a latchkey child, I was a latchkey child and did not even realize it until I got a little bit older. So my mom worked several jobs. My grandmother, she, before she passed away or whatnot, she was a very important part of my growing up or whatnot, helping my mother when she worked. She was the first Black African-American, crossing guard in Flint, Michigan. Not too many people know that. That's okay, because we're working on something for that. That's another story. Anyway, the whole point is that she made sure that when my mother was at work, I was acing the spelling bees. My grades were on point, all A's and B's. That's a part of having somebody in your village. My mom had her side of the family that helped pour into me, that helped me. So if she could not pick me up from different things because she had to work that second job or two, guess what? A cousin helped me pick me up from school. My godfather, some older cousin or relative helped and made sure that I was taken care of. If I needed lunch money, guess what? Somebody had me. I didn't fall short. And that's what we need. And also right now, a lot of things, and one thing that my mother did not do, and I thank her for, and we talk about it all the time. My mom wasn't my best friend. Now, when you get older, that's when your parents become your best friend. But when you are the age of, the teenage angst or whatnot, that is not your mom's or your father's job to be your best friend. It is their job to make sure that they instill upon you and empower you and uplift you and tell you things that you do need to hear, that you don't want to hear, but you do need to hear. One that my mom always told me was, it's okay. You ain't got to go to school if you don't want to. One time I didn't want to go to school. I was like, I don't feel like going. I already got my diploma. I already graduated. You the one who trying to go to college. So she used that or whatever. And I went to school. But the whole point is that you need people to pour into you and you need to hear things that you don't want to hear. Somebody needs to tell you constructively that, hey, you're not doing something right. And tell you with love, because that's another area that we kind of fall short of in certain arenas. Some individuals feel that you have to talk to people in a certain way, and that's not cool. That's going away from what God, and not to push religion on anybody, but that's not what God wanted us to do. God wants you to speak in a way that's in a loving arena to make sure that, hey, yeah, you're telling them don't do this, but you're saying it in a loving way, because what good is telling somebody something if it's not coming with love or from love? And what good is something? You have to be able to say, to use that emotional intelligence to say, hey, is this going to help the person or is this going to hinder them? Like, there's some things that you might not want to say to that person that's going to help the situation. You want to step back and say, you know what, even though it's the truth, would that be helping her or him or her right now? No, I'm going to tell her that later. I'm going to tell her as soon as, you will tell them that But I have to like say that to people, like, if they're going through something, what good is it for me to tell them, oh, well, you should have never did that. That's why they're attacking you. No, I'm not going to say that to somebody because they already know that. What good is that to help some? That's not helping the person. So we as people have to understand that we have to pour into one another and we have to change our mindset saying that, hey, just because something didn't happen good for us, we don't sit up there and say, oh, you got to learn the same way I learned. No, you don't. Just because you paid your dues one way doesn't mean that way would be good for someone else. Does not mean that person did not pay their dues just because they didn't do it your way. We have to change that and unlearn a lot of things that we learned in our communities that were not right, and understand that it is not your job as a parent to be your kid's best friend, to be wearing the little cute outfits to the concerts with your teenager. And I'm using that as an example because I see that is not acceptable. And then you get upset when they come home and they yelling at you and they talking to you sideways, but that's what you put out there. If you allow them to do it, they're going to think, okay, I can say this. My mom is allowing me to do this. My dad is allowing me to do this, so I can do it. No, because in society, you go out into the world thinking that type of stuff. Society has a way of breaking you down, and they're gonna, make sure that you learn that. So it's best to learn it as a kid and learn it from the right person that's pouring into you, that loves you, and understand that it's not their job to be your friend. Like literally, like that's one thing I thank my mom on and whatnot. She was a single parent, she got divorced from my father, but guess what? She always let that be understood that I am not your best friend. I ain't your little best friend. And that played a major role in my life and my upbringing and who I am as a person today. Because once I understood that, I never even thought that my mom was going to be like literally, because that's not her role. But the role is to nurture me and cultivate me and empower me into a law-abiding citizen and grow up to be something great and to be a blessing to other people. It's not to be my best friend. Being that's what your best friends are for, not your mom and dad. Now, when you get of age, yes, your parents will be your best friends after you done learned everything. That's fine. But when you are in their household, they ain't your best friend. And learn that and understand that it's not their job to give you stuff that you don't really need. Like you don't need to have that Mercedes Benz at 16 years of age. You need to learn certain things to cultivate, learning how to calculate, learning how to write a check, learning how to calculate information, do taxes, things that should be taught in school, learn how to cook, learn how to iron, learn how to different trades and skills, so that if we have another pandemic such as COVID, guess what? You know how to wax your eyebrows and arch them. You know how to do a sew in that's going to cost you $400 that you can no longer have access to because the world is shut down, as we've seen. To sew clothes, to do all of that. You now have the ability to do that because you trained yourself how to do it. You could teach classes online. You could create all types of things, sources of income, because your parents allowed you to do that and instilled that upon you and provided some source to advance you in that capability to do so.
One of the things that I just want to piggyback off something that you said that always stays in the forefront with me is the skill set that we have, that we think that we need to look more acceptable to other races by having straight hair, by getting weave, by doing that. When in fact, the process of weave, that's another story. But embracing your natural hair, showing the fact that this is a great thing, a great opportunity. And it's always bewildered me the amount of money that we spend in hair to look like someone else. And it's so bad that a lot of times when you see African movies, they have adopted the process as well. And so we continue to make other people rich. So that, and they say, okay, the acceptable person that we adopt to are the light-skinned blacks. We're more acceptable to that. and you could see that
Mm-hmm.
threaded throughout the country. But
Mm-hmm.
you really do need to start embracing who we are,
Mm-hmm.
so that people will not continue to take away. Well, we got them wearing the
Mm-hmm.
weave. We got them wanting to look
Mm-hmm.
like us. And I'm not saying white people don't wear weave,
Yeah, yeah,
but that's not our natural texture of our hair.
exactly.
Um,
I agree.
so anyway, I just wanted to put that in there because those are other areas that we can
Mm-hmm.
save massive amount of money.
Yes.
Massive amount of money. The calculation on what we spend on weave is already out there. I just forgot what it
Yes.
was. But how we spend our money is going to have to be important if we are designed to change the way
Mm-hmm.
the system treat us.
Yes.
So that is something. But I've
Yes.
enjoyed the talk immensely.
Thank
Um,
you.
I've
And I
enjoyed.
will definitely pick up the book too, because I support my people, and I definitely believe in this because, as I said, I am a person of an example of a product of STEM. I can say that growing up in Flint, Michigan, I was a part of the magnet program where I took sciences all the time.
Did
Like,
you
and
belong to Nesby Jr.?
Nesby Jr. What's
It's
that?
National Society of
National
Black
Science.
Engineers
Nope.
Junior, and
Nope.
they Nesby um, is in middle and high school. I
Mm-hmm.
think, um, and so I love that program. Even though I took my kids, I learned a
Mm-hmm.
lot myself. So um, it was a good science program, and so I stay attached to some of the science
Mm-hmm.
program. In fact, I'm going to a science program in a couple of weeks, just honoring the
Great.
people. And it is important that our kids get in STEM.
Mm-hmm.
It is
It
in,
is.
and it's also important that our kids get in a different art. There was a young
Yes.
man that graduated from Howard, and he's an artist, but he also help design cars.
Mm-hmm.
So your art skill doesn't necessarily mean that it's something you hang on the wall. It
Yeah.
could be something as corporate as designing cars. And
Exactly.
I'm about ready to say which car he designed, but I'm not exactly 100%, but that's his job. And he's played a major part in one of the more popular cars out there. So
And
we have
that's
some talent,
exceptional.
but a lot of our talent is going to the grave with our children. And we
Mm-hmm.
want to stop that,
Yeah. And we
so
have to pour into one another too, and never tell your child, oh, that's not a good field to go into. Because I've had some people that I know, their parents told them that, and they stopped, like, it kind of messed them up. And I feel bad for them. And I thank God that my grandmother and my mom always told me if I want to pursue music, I can do it. They always believed in all the things that I believed in. They always pushed me, and they always said, forget what everybody else say. We're gonna, as long as you're doing good things and you living in your purpose and you're being intentional and you're praying about it and you put God first or whatever, we're always going to back it and we're always going to support it. So I think my mother and my grandmother, my late grandmother, and my mom's side of the family and all of my friends and people I met along the way, they always poured and still pour into me. And no matter what, they always believe in what I am going after because they know they see the good and the purpose of it to help all. And I definitely respect that. And we have to do better, Black people in the community. We just have
mhm.
to. We can't, it's okay to buy things, but stand for something. If somebody, you go into a store and they do not greet you, guess what? There are other people that make that same product. Go to another store. And I do that. And I've gotten a lot of backlash from people, my friends. Why you got to be argumentative? Because I stand for something and I'm not going to take somebody disrespecting me, knowing that I'm worked hard for that dollar. I'm going to take that dollar somewhere else if they do not respect me. I'm going to go somewhere else because chances are I can get it for cheaper and I can get better treatment. And I learned that from my grandmother and my mother. I learned that if somebody doesn't treat you with respect, guess what? Power the pen. Write that letter to corporate and be respectful, and you get something done. And it's not about getting a free gift card. It's about putting that out there and letting them know you are not going to talk to us this kind of way, and you're going to treat me with respect and dignity. And I don't have to purchase from you. I can go somewhere else.
Yeah. So again,
Yep.
my book is Black Tech. And I have several going out there. And the reason the book is so important to me is that I want to change. I want to be very instrumental in changing the trajectory of African American in education and economics. And
Yes.
so there is a lot of people that ask me about other people. I love everybody. I truly do. But
Yes.
I just that is not my mission. That's not my goal. I stay focused in this one area.
And I've put up Dr. Teresa Merritt-Watson's information. You can get her on IG at Black Tech Book, Facebook at Black Tech Book, YouTube at Black Tech Book. Make sure you subscribe, share, follow, and support this amazing endeavor and accomplishment to make sure that our Black children and even allies of the Blacks will support this as well. Make sure that we get this in classrooms. I have a lot of educators that are, well, friends that are educators. So I would definitely plug this because they would love to have this stuff in their schools, and definitely push this along the communities, making sure that we are knowing about our people and that we have something that is representative of us, and we understand what the bigger goal is to be a blessing to others, and to also understand that we can be inventors, we can be scientists, we can achieve things, and we can be great, and that we don't have to accept mediocrity, never accept mediocrity. Understand that we are great, and there's nothing wrong with wearing glasses and wearing our natural hair and not wearing name brand things. It's okay. Be yourself. It is okay to have your own personality, be unique and be different. And it is okay. Just know, go where people accept you. Go where you are celebrated. Don't ever allow somebody's no to deter you. Just go further and beyond and succeed, and go where the people will accept you and won't try to change you and understand. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Conversations with D. And thank you to my special guest, Dr. Teresa Merritt-Watson, and being a pillar in the community and seeing something and running with it to take those lemons and create lemonade. And now we have something as great as this, an updated version. And thank you to everybody. And please go and support. Go to Amazon.com, Black Tech Leaders in Technology, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and support this wonderful accomplishment, and just help us and be better than what other people were, no matter what. And also tune in on Monday when I'm sorry, for the interview. Is it Monday or Tuesday? I will have Maryland Senator, Mr. Nick Charles, and we will talk about Project 2025, because I know a lot of y'all don't know what it's about. And we will also talk about his endeavors and celebrate him as a Black male senator of Maryland, and all of his humanitarianism and his education, and just being a pillar of the great community of Maryland. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You guys have a blessed night and stay safe. And remember, we will get through this.
We will get through it.
We will get through it. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You do the same thing.